Have you ever felt that something was completely true, but most of mainstream society disagreed with you? Then, much later, it turns out you were right, or at least mostly right? Well, then this video is for you. Today, I want to talk about some things that were once widely considered conspiracy theories, but have since been proven true.
Free at last! Free at last! Thank God Almighty! We are free at last! Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
You're not hurting anybody with force, fraud, coercion, theft, or violence. Your life is your life, your body is your body, your business is your business, and your property is your property. It's not mine, and it sure as hell is not the federal government's.
First, let's establish what we mean by a conspiracy theory. A conspiracy theory is defined as an explanation for an event or situation that asserts the existence of a secret plan or plot, typically by powerful and often sinister groups, when other, more probable explanations are available.
I have no idea how many wives, girlfriends, children inherited the disease and also died or were forever crippled by its effect.
From 1932 to 1972, the U.S. Public Health Service ran what they called the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male in Macon County, Alabama. The goal of the study was to observe the natural progression of untreated syphilis in African American men from initial infection to death and autopsy. At the time it began, there was no effective cure for syphilis. The study involved 600 impoverished African American sharecroppers. Of these, 399 had latent syphilis and 201 were a control group without the disease. The men were never informed they had syphilis or that they were part of a long-term study observing the disease's effects. Instead, they were told they were being treated for bad blood, a local term for various ailments. Crucially, they were never given proper informed consent regarding the true nature of their participation. They were enticed to participate with promises of free medical care, hot meals, transportation to clinics, and burial stipends. Even after penicillin became widely available and established as a highly effective cure for syphilis in the mid-1940s, it was deliberately withheld from the infected men in the study. Researchers actively prevented them from receiving treatment from other sources in order to continue observing the untreated course of the disease. The study continued for over 40 years until it was exposed by a whistleblower, Peter Buxton, in 1972, leading to widespread public outrage and media coverage. An advisory panel was convened which concluded the study was ethically unjustified and it was finally terminated. A class action lawsuit was filed on behalf of the victims and their families, resulting in a $10 million out-of-court settlement in 1974.
I was given a glass of Kool-Aid, and so were the other children. This Kool-Aid was spiked with LSD. It was horrible.
Project MKUltra was a top-secret and highly unethical program of human experimentation conducted by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, from 1953 to 1973. The primary objective was to research and develop methods for mind control, interrogation, and psychological torture. This included seeking a truth serum for extracting confessions, ways to manipulate human behavior, and methods to create Manchurian candidates, individuals who could be programmed to perform actions against their will. MKUltra employed a wide array of extreme and often brutal techniques, including the covert administration of psychoactive drugs like LSD but also mescaline, heroin, barbiturates, MDMA, and other chemicals. These were often given to unwitting subjects, frequently in high doses. They also experimented with hypnosis, electroshock therapy, sensory deprivation and isolation, and psychological torture, such as psychic driving and depatterning, methods developed by psychiatrist Donald Ewan Cameron, which involved forcing patients to listen to looped messages for extended periods of times, sometimes 20 hours a day, while under drug-induced prolonged sleep. The program involved over 150 sub-projects and collaborated with more than 80 universities, hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical companies. Most records related to MKUltra were deliberately destroyed in 1973 by order of then CIA Director Richard Helms, making a full accounting of its activities and victims impossible. A particularly egregious aspect was the use of unwitting US and Canadian citizens as test subjects. This included patients in psychiatric hospitals, prisoners, drug addicts, and even individuals lured to CIA safe houses. Details of MKUltra first came to light in 1974 through a New York Times article by Seymour Hersh, based on information from a former CIA official. This led to congressional investigations, most notably by the Church Committee in 1975, which uncovered surviving documents and revealed the shocking extent of the program's abuses. While many records were destroyed, the revelations led to public outrage, some lawsuits against the government, and significant reforms in ethical oversight for human experimentation.
My fellow Americans, I've said on several occasions that I wouldn't comment about the recent congressional hearings on the Iran-Contra matter until the hearings were over.
The Iran-Contra Affair was a major political scandal during the Reagan administration in the 1980s. It involved two interconnected illegal and secret operations, an arms for hostages deal with Iran, and the illegal funding of the Nicaraguan Contras. The US government, despite its public stance of not negotiating with terrorists and an existing arms embargo against Iran, secretly sold anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles to Iran. The primary motivation for this was to secure the release of 7 American hostages held by Iranian-backed Hezbollah terrorists in Lebanon. Profits from these arms sales to Iran were then secretly diverted to fund the Contra rebels in Nicaragua. The Contras were a right-wing guerrilla group fighting to overthrow the socialist Sandinista government. Crucially, this funding was in direct violation of the Boland Amendment, a series of acts passed by the U.S. Congress that explicitly prohibited U.S. military aid to the Contras. The affair came to light in November 1986 when a Lebanese magazine broke the story of the arms sales. This led to widespread public outrage and intense investigations by both a presidential commission, the Tower Commission, and Congress.
But I have to tell you, I think the fact that the Hunter Biden laptop story was suppressed by major arteries of the media and big tech going into the 2020 election was a disgrace. But
now this is a tricky one, as investigations are still unfolding, but here's where we are at now. The story began when John Paul McIsaac, the owner of a computer repair shop in Delaware, claimed that a laptop was dropped off at his shop in 2019 by a man he identified as Hunter Biden, but was never picked up. McIsaac stated that he is legally blind and could not be sure it was definitively Hunter Biden. McIsaac claimed he made a copy of the hard drive before turning the laptop over to the FBI in December 2019, under a subpoena issued by a grand jury. He later provided copies of the data to Rudy Giuliani, then personal attorney to Donald Trump, who subsequently shared it with the New York Post. On October 14, 2020, the New York Post published a front-page story based on emails purportedly from the laptop. These emails alleged to show questionable business dealings by Hunter Biden, particularly related to his work with Ukrainian energy company Burisma, and implied potential corruption by Joe Biden. One key email mentioned 10 held by H for the big guy, with a former business partner later claiming the big guy referred to Joe Biden. Many mainstream media outlets initially questioned the authenticity and provenance of the laptop's contents, and social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook took steps to limit the spread of the New York Post story, citing concerns about unverified information and potential foreign disinformation. 5 days after the New York Post story broke, a group of 51 former senior U.S. intelligence officials signed an open letter stating that the laptop has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. This letter was widely cited during the 2020 election campaign by Joe Biden and others to dismiss the laptop's contents. Over time, numerous media outlets and forensic analysts have authenticated portions of the laptop's contents. CBS News, for example, commissioned an independent review in 2022 that found no evidence of tampering or fabrication in a clean copy of the data obtained directly from McIsaac. Other outlets like Politico also verified key emails. FBI investigators quickly concluded in 2019 that the laptop was genuinely Hunter Biden's and did not appear to have been tampered with. The FBI had possessed the laptop since December 2019. Hunter Biden has been the subject of ongoing federal investigations, including his tax filings and a gun purchase. In June 2024, federal prosecutors used the laptop as evidence in a criminal case against Hunter Biden. While the laptop's authenticity is now largely accepted, direct evidence proving Joe Biden personally benefited from or directed his son's business dealings in a corrupt manner has not been publicly presented by investigators. The initial handling of the story by some media outlets and social media platforms, and the letter from intelligence officials, has generated significant debate about media bias, censorship, and the role of intelligence agencies in political disclosure. In essence, the Hunter Biden laptop story evolved from a highly controversial and initially disputed news report into a confirmed source of information, parts of which have been used in ongoing legal and congressional investigations. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let me know your thoughts on today's subject in the comments. If you have some topics you would like me to cover, you can also leave those in the comment section. If you would like me to do a video on current conspiracy theories that I believe will be exposed as true, let me know. And remember, sic semper tyrannis.